Alright, guys, now let's move on to deploying the system we've built. Let's bring it up on the Kubernetes cluster. We've already connected to our Kubernetes cluster. Here, we need to set up all the components we need, one by one, in order. What I mean is this. We have our Kubernetes cluster here. Do we need to connect to Redis, for example? Redis. Are we going to connect to PostgreSQL? PostgreSQL. Are we going to connect to Mongo? Mongo. We need to be making all the connections regarding these. And we need to be setting these up. So, how do we do this? First of all, friends, these auxiliary elements are database and EME hatch. It would be best to install these. That's why, to help you do this, I've prepared the YAML files for you. Hopefully, I've made some mistakes in them, because if they work right away, I can't show you any errors. Hopefully, there will be some errors too. I've made a few notes here, so you can understand what these are. The Kubernetes objects here and how to use them are a whole different set of lessons. There are also separate trainings about these, microservice. We'll be covering the preparation of these YAML files needed for processing the microservice structure on the Kubernetes cluster side, understanding the Kubernetes architecture, and the Kubernetes objects here in a completely separate course. But that's not the topic of this course. Here, we'll basically look at how to perform a publishing operation. Now, here, first of all, I configured the relevant YAML file to deploy OscarSQL to a Kubernetes cluster. Guys, here, the image of Safo's Grayscan that we need, we've allocated way too much to it. 300 megabytes RAM is already a lot actually. It would be more accurate to give it 1024, and then there's the container port. And this is its password. Alright, now let's do it like this. Let's change directory to microservice. Here, I say kubectl apply f. I'm going to deploy C001. Guys, when I say kubectl get pods, I can see here that my PostgreSQL container has been created. Let this be created, guys. Yes, it says running. Now I'm going to expose this to the outside world with my load balancer. kubectl apply fj002. I've created my load balancer. This load balancer exposes any of your structures inside Kubernetes to the outside world in 3 ways. Think of it like this. This is my Kubernetes cluster, and I'm adding a load balancer here. This load balancer, guys, actually acts like a gateway. It's basically a network, guys. It enables different networks to connect to each other. It acts like a route. Here, the cluster IPC looks at the internal line, and here, the external IPC opens up to the outside world. So, it takes a request coming from outside, passes it through itself, and then, let's say, inside. Is it going to PostgreSQL? It handles the routing to that. Guys, it directs the incoming request here. This is called a load balancer. Guys, it's a service object and works this way. Now, let's see, when I say kubectl get services here, look. The thing I created here gave me an external IP. Now, using this, I'm going to connect to this thing. Guys, so how about PostgreSQL, like this? I'm coming in with icadmin. I right-click here, I select Register Services. Now, here I say Microservice Docker. I named this one post grade. Then I go to the connection section. It asks me for the host name. The host name is this external IP. Guys, the port is 5432. I had already opened that. You can see it. Then it asks for the root password. Our password was already root. When I click save, look, it appears here now. Guys, as you can see, there's nothing in the database section. What do we need to set up here? We need to add a database. What was the name of the database for our out microservice? Guys, it's not written here, obviously. Let's do it like this. Let's check here. Turns out it's OUTDB. Guys, so I'm creating it right here as OUTDB. This gives me an error, but it probably won't give you an error. When I refresh like this, you can see OUTDB here. So what happened now, guys? I'm running PostgreSQL inside my Kubernetes cluster with Maya, and I've made it accessible from the outside world. That's nice. We've sorted that out. Now we need to install MongoDB. Next up is MongoDB. You say kubectl apply f. This is a command used to create Kubernetes objects from a YAML file. Guys, here you provide the file. Here I'm saying J0M. My deployment is for Mongo. When I run kubectl get pods, you can see here that it's been created. Now I'm going to expose this to the outside world as well. So I need a load balancer for this too. kubectl apply fj01. I've created this one as well. When I say kubectl get services, this will stay in pending. It'll be up in a bit. Guys, now the load balancer works through an external IP assigned to you by Google servers. It needs to be configured. That's why it's making you wait here. So, configuring it takes a bit of time. Guys, what are we going to do after this is sorted out? We're going to connect to MongoDB as well. For that, what were we using? MongoDB Compass. Now, let's try this. Is it ready? The service. Yes, look, the external IP for MongoDB has also appeared. I'm copying this with Ctrl-C as well. So, what are we going to do here now? There will be a new connection. In the advanced section, look, it says localhost here. We paste that external IP we got into the localhost section. Let me delete it like this. Guys, :27.0.17. This will be the port. In the authentication section, for the admin password, we had written root. Sir, where did we write it? Guys, we wrote it in the application YAML, remember? So, if we go to my repo, my book repo, like this. Was it here? Yes, it was here. Let's come over here. Look, the thing for user services user application is here. Guys, especially the connection. This, of course. Let's do it like this for the other user. You'll find it especially in the README. Did I put it here? I didn't put it here. It's not important. I wrote it over here. All right. Username, admin, password, root, like that. Guys, we'll have integrated this. Let's see if it will work correctly. I'm saying admin, root, connect. Let's see. Authentication failed, so I must have written something else. Let's check right away. In the Mongo deployment, I wrote Mohammed as root. So let's say Mohammed root connect. I changed this, apparently. We couldn't connect. See why we got the error. Let's say kubectl get pods. Let's see. Our mongodb is running. There's nothing at all in this. No problem. What we're using here is the Mongo image. There's no problem here either. Alright, let's check Mongo here. Maybe there's something else going on. dbmongo LoadBalancer 27017. That's this. Okay, let's see if it picked up the right thing. Control-C. Maybe I got this wrong. Let's go over there from here. This is our post. 27.07. That's correct too. For authentication, the username is Mohammed. Our password is root. Let's check again. Deployment Mongo. Username is Mohammed. And our password is root. Mohammed, and our password is root. Alright, let's try again. Let's click connect. Yes, it's in now. I probably wrote something with a capital letter or something like that. Now, here again, we're going to create the database. What was the name of our database? User profile. Guys, I'm writing demo here. So basically, all the configurations you do locally, you also do on the cloud. Guys, in the same way. Now you come here. Here, you say user profile. Then, there was a command I gave you here. Right here. You use this, guys. So, I come over here. I paste it here and hit enter. This is created as well, guys. Nice. Now that we've handled this too, now that we've set up this configuration as well, our MongoDB and PostgreSQL are ready to use. What's next to install? Next up is config services. Guys, let's bring up the config services. kubectl apply trefbuj003. This is also going great. kubectl get pods. Let me show you something nice here. Let's type clear, guys. kubectl logs tref. Sorry, first let's type kubectl get pods and check out the pods. Then, when I type kubectl logs tref and get the name of the config services, I can follow the config services logs like this. So, is the config server really being created? Is everything okay? Is it starting up correctly? I'll be able to see that here. Guys, first of all, this might take a little time. Once it starts, it's ready to use. Right now, I can see that it started. Now, after you type this, it will stay in watch mode. Guys, to exit from this, you need to press Ctrl+C. Alright, we've sorted out the config server, so let's also expose the config services to the outside world. In other words, let's set up the load balancer for the config services. kubectl applet. I'm saying applet ref. This one's J004. Nice. This will come up as well. Now, I'm running kubectl get services, and the services will show up. Guys, let's wait and see. By the way, if you pay attention step by step, we're adding the things we need here. I forgot Redis here. We'll add Redis too. Guys, there's not much of a problem with that. It's a simple box. It has a straightforward use. Let's see, it should have come up by now. Looks like it's going to take a bit more time. Now we can do it like this, friends. With PostgreSQL and MongoDB, we are essentially done with external IPs. We can shoot these things. We can get cluster IP from LoadBalancer. So this is what we'll do. This service LoadBalancer feature. Let's pull the cluster IP. PostgreSQL. Similarly, let's get the cluster IP of MongoDB. And let's do it like this. kubectl apply to refc002. First, let's pull PostgreSQL. kubectl apply to ref C011. Now, when we say kubectl get services, yes, it still hasn't come up. That's very strange. Let's check kubectl describe services. Services load balancer config. Let's see why it's stuck. Our code is full, so as you can see, it's getting mad at us. But is there anything else I'm currently using? kubectl get pods, kubectl ctl get serve, etc. Deem. Actually, it shouldn't be doing this right now, but let's do it like this. kubectl delete services. I also had some other things. It's probably doing this because it got full together with those. Now let it delete this. Let's deploy it again. This will fix it. It'll come up. Here's what we'll do. So, as we use them, we'll shut them down. We'll convert them to cluster IP. That way, we won't hit this quota. By the way, the describe command. Guys, I wrote describe here. kubectl describe. When you type services and the name of the service, you can access detailed information about the service and its events. That's why this command is important. Guys, it's gone now, guys. So when I type services now, I have 3 cluster IPs. Then, once again, kubectl apply fconfig service j004. LoadBalancer, this should now be working without soluces and the high requirement will come. It will open shortly. There is no problem with our quota. I had just created it and it did not cause any problems. He will allow this too. Let's wait a little bit. It will open soon. Yes, finally there is an extra. Now I do it like this. Look here. External IP 8888/outtray. I'm saying application.yaml. Let's see what it's doing here now, friends. Our config server is connecting to GitHub. It's pulling the application YAML from GitHub. Then it will return this to us. Now, here. The connection may take some time, so sir, I couldn't take a step. Think of it. First of all, it takes about 90 to 120 seconds for the microservices you started to become ready. After that, it takes about the same amount of time for them to connect to a load balancer or cluster IP. So, on average, you might experience connection issues for about 3 minutes. That's why you might get a connection refused. You might encounter this. During these initial steps, this can happen, but after that, it will work fine. Let's try again and see. It's going to take longer to come up. Let's do it this way. Let this keep running, guys. Connection timeout. We got it here. Let's try one more time. Now let's figure out if there's a problem or not. I'm running kubectl describe services. I'm writing the LoadBalancer config like this. Now, the important thing here is this. The endpoint, guys, has it connected to this endpoint? Who does this endpoint belong to? That's what we need to find out. We need to do that as well. Let's see if this has come up. Not coming up. We'll check why it hasn't come up. Now, this is 10.120.0.14. Here's what you do. When you run kubectl getCodes tree or white, it gives you detailed information about your codes. Look, this is our config services IP. Look, this is also the value that connects to the internal leg of our service. So, the basic information is correct. Guys, in other words, there's no problem with these. So if this thing still isn't coming up, if we can't reach it, if we're getting a timeout, then there's another problem here. Let's solve that. So, what's the problem here? Most likely, there's a configuration error in config services. Let's say kubectl get pardon locks, or kubectl locks config server. Now, if there's a problem here, we'll see it clearly. If it's giving an error or something. Right now, it's not giving any error here, but normally it should, or maybe we just can't see it here. The main problem here is this. There's something we've forgotten, a configuration. It's caused by that. Let's go straight to the deployment, to the config server. Now guys, look, for config services to work, we wrote something like git key in the application YAML. Look, git key. This git key needs to be defined here. So, these details absolutely need to be written as environment variables here. That's why I'm saying env-name here. I take this env-name, git key. I'm pasting it here. I say value. I'm going to set the value here. What was our value? Guys, look, I had written it right here. Here. I had entered it as an environment variable. Guys, look, I had written this info here as git key. We're getting an error because this is missing. I mean, it doesn't throw an error here either. But I know this is the problem. So then I say add apple as typef here, this C003. Of course, you'll write your own here. Guys, you'll enter your own git key. Most likely, by the time you watch this tutorial, my git key will already be inactive. So even if you wanted to, this won't work. That's why, when adding images, you need to add your own images here. These are my images. Because what did I teach you? I showed you how to upload these images to Docker Hub. So, you will also need to carefully write your very own repository name and the specific name of the image you have created for configserv in the designated image name section right here, just like this example. Alright, let's say kubectl get pods. Yes, it's running right now. It's been 54 seconds. Has it come up? Let's try. Let's do it like this. kubectl get pods w. Let me monitor it to see if it's running. It started up in 43 seconds, 50 seconds. It's running. Nice, here as well. It will show up soon. Let's say all of them will eventually show up. 34, 155, 58, 126. I wrote this wrong too. Guys, And another issue is this. I wrote this part wrong. Let's hit enter here. HTTP didn't accept the old one, right? This will also cause a problem. It came up. It took a bit of time, but it finally came. Now look, here the auto application has come as a configuration from our tab. Guys. Nice. So now we've also brought that up here. Guys. We've also brought up the config services. Everything's good up to this point. Guys. Is there any problem so far? No. Now, slowly, we need to bring up auto and we need to bring up user as well. So, how are we going to do this? First, I want you to pay attention to this. Here, for the database, Postgres and root, this is correct. There's no problem here. Do you see the conf over here? Look, it says localhost here. There's no such thing as localhost inside the cloud, guys. So, if you want to access another pod inside the Kubernetes cloud, you either provide that pod's IP address or the name of the service it's connected to. You write its name. Look, what's the name of the service that PostgreSQL is connected to? This one. So, you need to write this here. So, I'm coming over. Where was it? I'm going to my own book. Look, out application. I'm editing this from here. And I'm coming to this localhost part. I'm pasting it here. Guys, then I commit it. I'm committing. Look, this has been committed. Now I'm coming here. I'm clicking refresh. Now, this will return from localhost. It says services LoadBalancer PostgreSQL. Because if you don't fix this, you won't be able to access it from within the internal network. Alright, we've fixed this. So, what are we going to do now? Now, guys, we can finally deploy our deployment output inside. Come on, let's do that too. Prints inside. What is apply F? J0, C001. Kipsit. Get voted. It makes 3 pieces. Did we make 3 of them? Deployment out. We made 3 of them. So many unnecessary friends. Let's drop it too. Others are being terminated. As you can see, it will drop to 1. Guys, okay, it dropped to 1. Let's watch this. Let's say kubectl lockstrap and watch this output. Let's start watching, because I want to see if it's working or not. Oh, we skipped it. Let's check the problem right away. Sure, hey, it's here. Yes, now it's actually great to get this error. Now look here. Do you know what the connection refused was for? The connection refused was for this. Let's go to that first. Let's close these here. Let's go to the out microservice here. Now look, guys, in the out services resource application YAML, where is it connecting to? Could you please pay attention? Look, where is it connecting to? It's looking for config services on localhost. We've made a huge mistake. Why? Because the auto microservice is looking for it on localhost here. The config server. Is that wrong? Of course it's wrong. Guys, what should it be? Look, let me run kubectl get services here. Look, our config git is here. It's connected here. We need to provide its name, so we need to give the name of the service's load balancer config here. The same goes for user services as well, guys. We should also provide this here so it can connect directly from there. Yes, we need to fix these like this. Now, let's move on. We'll fix these. Let's remove it from the config services load balancer here. Guys, we no longer need to access it from outside either. The config services load balancer is here. Let's set this to cluster IP instead of load balancer. Now, I'm coming here. kubectl apply tref C004, and like this, kubectl get. As you can see, when I say services, the external IPs are gone. These are now completely inside the cluster IP internal structure. So now, teacher, you've changed things. You changed the out microservice, and you changed the user microservice. Yes, I changed them. So what do you need to do then? Guys, you have to rebuild both of them again. So, if you're going to build this here, we've handled build depend out. Let's move on to user. I'm rebuilding user again. Then I say build depend on this one, and the process is done. I'm closing these. So what are we going to do now? Now that we've created both of these, guys, we go to the README. What are we going to do? Look, here, out's version has to go from version 1 to out version 2, and the training version has to go from version 1 to version 2. I'm opening the terminal. Where am I right now? I'm in the user microservice. So I say create user microservice. As version 2, look, it's created. I type cd to go back to the root, then cd out to switch to the out microservice. Then I run its docker build command. My images have been created again. Look, I'm coming back. These were the old ones. Now version 2s have arrived, and I'm pushing the version 2s. Now, this time my push will be a bit faster. Why? Because most of this already exists. In the cloud,